Your waistband gets tighter at 35,000 feet. That isn't your imagination. The air inside you expands by 30%. The fix is on an FAA page 4 lines long that almost nobody has read. Line 1, cotton, wool, denim, or leather. Because synthetics may melt when heated. That's one free in 20 seconds. 8 more follow, and I'll say which only really bite after 60. The last is a federal rule number you can quote at anyone who tells you to switch your hearing aids off. Number 9, the fabric that melts. Let's start with the one that surprised me most. It comes straight from the federal government, and it is 4 sentences long. The FAA keeps a passenger page called Wear Sensible Clothing. Most people have flown their whole lives without ever seeing it. The first thing on it is a fabric instruction. Wear clothes made of natural fabrics, such as cotton, wool, denim, or leather. Then the reason in 5 words. Synthetics may melt when heated. That is the FAA's own language, not mine. And it quietly rules out most of what modern travel clothing is made of. The fleece pullover, the nylon windbreaker, the polyester set that packs beautifully and weighs nothing. Let me be honest about how strong this is. It's official federal guidance, current and published, not a peer-reviewed study. No airline will stop you over a fleece. It's the government telling you what it would wear. Your defense: cotton, wool, denim, or leather as the layer touching your skin. Save synthetics for the layer you can take off. A denim jacket earns its place twice: natural fiber and a pillow. Fabric handled. The very next line on that same page is the one people argue with me about most. Number 8, the skin you leave out. The FAA's second instruction is blunt: dress to cover as much skin as possible. Here's what makes it make sense. When people are hurt getting off an aircraft in a hurry, it's rarely dramatic. Aviation safety data from the National Transportation Safety Board's own evacuation study shows more than 80% of reported slide injuries are minor. And that friction from the slide surface is a leading cause: scrapes and abrasions. Not impact, not fire. Friction. A slide is a piece of fabric you travel down at speed with whatever you're wearing between you and it. Bare arms and bare legs have nothing between them and it at all. Now the honest part, and I'd rather you hear it from me than in the comments. This applies to a 30-year-old as much as it does to us. The only thing that shifts with age is what happens afterward. Skin gets thinner and heals more slowly, so the same scrape costs more. That's my reasoning, not the FAA's. Your defense: long sleeves and full-length trousers on the day, even in high summer. Sleeves down for takeoff and landing. The 2 windows that matter. Won't give up shorts? Keep trousers in the seat pocket, not the overhead. That's 2 of the 4 lines. The third one has been misquoted so often it's become a rule that doesn't exist. Number 7, the shoe rule nobody actually wrote. You've almost certainly heard some version of this. Keep your shoes on for takeoff and landing. It's an FAA rule. A flight attendant said so. I read every FAA passenger page I could find. That rule is not there. What the FAA actually says about footwear is one line: wear low-heeled leather or canvas shoes. And that's dressing advice for before you leave home, not an instruction about phases of flight. There's exactly one place the FAA ties shoes to a moment in the air, and it says the opposite of what everyone repeats. Its evacuation guidance tells passengers to remove high-heeled shoes before exiting. Take them off, not keep them on. So, the rule is folklore. The advice underneath it still stands, though. Low-heeled, closed, easy to walk in. What I'd want on my feet in an aisle at 2 in the morning. Your defense: low heel, closed toe, leather, or canvas. The FAA's literal words. Heels come off before an evacuation, not after. No rule forces shoes on at cruise. Comfort is yours to manage. And yes, there's a whole video on what flight attendants actually put on their own feet. I'm not repeating it here. I'll point you at it at the end. Which brings us neatly to the reason your clothes stop fitting at altitude. Number 6. The waistband that tightens itself. The FAA's fourth and final line is this: wear clothing that is roomy, avoiding restrictive clothing. It gives no reason. So, here's the reason. Federal regulation caps the cabin at a pressure altitude of 8,000 feet, and most flights sit between 5 and 7,500. The UK Civil Aviation Authority puts a number on what that does to you. Gas inside the body increases in volume by approximately 30%. That's the whole mystery. The air inside you got bigger and the trousers didn't. A belt buckled at the gate is a different garment at cruise. Honesty again, because this audience checks. The physics doesn't care how old you are. A 20-year-old expands by the same 30%. What changes with age is how much you feel it. Slower digestion, hiatal hernias, and previous abdominal surgery are all far more common after 60, and every one of them turns mild expansion into real discomfort. Your defense: elastic or drawstring waist for the flight every time. Belt a notch looser than feels right at the gate, or off entirely. Skip the fizzy drink. You're adding gas to a system about to expand. That's the FAA's complete list, all 4 lines of it. Everything from here on is the part they never wrote down. Number 5. The glasses in your bag. If you wear contact lenses, this is the one I'd most like you to act on. The cabin is one of the driest places you'll ever spend 6 hours. The Civil Aviation Authority measures cabin humidity at 10 to 20% against 40 to 50 in an ordinary building. The same authority names the consequence directly. It causes problems for contact lens wearers due to corneal drying. The American Academy of Ophthalmology is measured rather than alarmist. Everyone's eyes dry out on airplanes, they say. Take lenses out if you'll sleep and carry drops. They don't say never wear contacts, and neither will I. Here is where age genuinely enters the picture, and it isn't my opinion. Tear production and corneal sensitivity both decline as we get older, so the same 10% humidity that mildly irritates a younger passenger is landing on eyes that were already producing less to begin with. Your defense: glasses on for anything over 3 hours, lenses in the case, preservative-free drops in the seat pocket, not the overhead bin. Keeping lenses in? Take them out before you sleep, the Academy's own line. That's 5. Which of these did you already know? Put the number in the comments. I read them all. The full list is on one free printable page, link below. Number 4 catches people on the way home. Number 4. The ring that won't come off. Almost everyone our age has had this happen, or watched it happen to somebody in the next seat. You land, and the ring that has lived on that finger for 40 years will not move. The mechanism is well documented, and it isn't the one people assume. The Mayo Clinic explains it plainly. Sitting with the feet on the floor for a long time causes blood to pool in the leg veins. The position of the legs while seated raises the pressure in them, and that pushes fluid out of the blood into the surrounding soft tissue. That's swelling. The primary driver is not altitude. It's sitting still. I'll be precise because the internet is not. The clinical research measures this in feet and ankles. Extending it to fingers matches what everybody experiences, but it isn't a separately studied finding, and I won't pretend otherwise. What is separately studied is the age link. Peer-reviewed work ties peripheral swelling directly to older age. It's genuinely more likely to happen to us, and to a greater degree, the most solidly senior-specific item on this list. Your defense: rings off before boarding into the zipped pocket you always use. Stand and walk once an hour. Movement, not water, is the fix. If a ring is already tight, don't let the flight decide for you. That's what the flight does to your hands. Next is what it does to the rest of you, and no rule protects you from it at all. Number 3. The layer nobody is obliged to give you. Ask most travelers why cabins are cold, and you'll get a confident answer about a regulation. There isn't one. There is no federal rule setting a passenger cabin temperature. The only requirement on the books ties the cabin to within a few degrees of the flight deck. Everything else is airline practice, and crews tend to run cabins around 71 to 75 degrees. Cabin crew unions have lobbied for years for an actual standard, precisely because none exists. So when you're cold at 35,000 feet, nobody is breaking a rule. There is no rule to break, and this one is genuinely ours. Peer-reviewed physiology is unambiguous that blood vessels in aging skin constrict less efficiently in the cold, that thermal sensitivity drops, and that shivering weakens. Together, that means a cabin reading as merely cool to a 30-year-old can chill someone in their 70s faster and give them less warning it's happening. That isn't a preference, it's measured. Your defense: one warm layer in the cabin bag every flight, whatever the destination. A wool wrap beats a bulky coat, blanket, pillow, and shawl in one. Ask early. Crews run out of blankets long before they run out of flight. Magic phrase: could you put me down for a blanket now, before they run out? I feel the cold more than I used to. Number 2 is the one that genuinely surprised me, because it isn't advice at all. It's in a contract you already signed. Number 2, the word that's written into your ticket. When you buy a ticket, you agree to a legal document called the Contract of Carriage. Nobody reads it. It's long and dull, and it contains one clause about clothing that surprises everybody. Delta's contract, under its refusal to transport rule, has a numbered line that reads, "in full," when the passenger is barefoot. American's tariff says the same under its own refusal rule. United carries equivalent wording. Bare feet are named individually in the document that governs your seat. They go further. Delta's rule also covers a passenger whose conduct, attire, hygiene, or odor creates an unreasonable risk of offense or annoyance to other passengers. That's deliberately broad and entirely at the airline's discretion. If they refuse you, these contracts limit you to a refund, not compensation, not a hotel, a refund. And while we're in that contract, let me put an old story to bed. Dressing smartly does not get you upgraded. I checked all 3 carriers' published upgrade rules. Upgrades run off elite status, then fare class, then how early you asked. Clothing appears nowhere. That was true in your father's era of flying. It hasn't been for decades. Your defense: shoes on through boarding and any time you leave your seat. Socks are not shoes as far as that clause is concerned. Dress for comfort. Just don't expect it to buy you anything up front. Which leaves one more, the only thing on this list that comes with the federal rule number you can quote back. Number 1, the one thing you never have to take out. If you wear hearing aids, you've almost certainly been told to switch them off with everything else. Somebody has been wrong at you. Federal Aviation Regulation 121.306 is the rule banning portable electronic devices on scheduled airline flights. It then lists what's exempt. Hearing aids are named in that exemption by those words. They stay in and they stay on through taxi, takeoff, cruise, and landing. Nothing to switch off, nothing to explain. The FAA has separately confirmed cochlear implants count as hearing aids under the same exemption, published specifically to kill the rumor that implant users had to power down. They don't, and this matters more than it sounds. A government review of independent studies puts cabin noise at cruise at roughly 70 to 85 decibels. That's the drone you've been straining through. Audiology research finds older adults need far more listening effort to follow speech in that noise than younger listeners do. In one study, 90% effort against 53, even with aids in and working properly. So, the safety briefing, the meal question, the gate change over the tannoy, none of that is you not paying attention. It's the aircraft. Keeping your aids in is the whole point, and the rule was written to let you. Your defense: aids stay in from door to door. No permission needed. Fresh batteries before you fly, spares in the cabin bag. Never checked. Tell the crew at boarding so they come to you, not announce over your head. Magic phrase: I use hearing aids. Could you tell me directly if anything is announced? I'd rather not miss it. Look what that adds up to. A cotton shirt, loose trousers, flat shoes, glasses instead of lenses, rings in your pocket, A wrap over your arm. That's not a costume. That's most people's Sunday, and the difference between arriving stiff and arriving like yourself. One thing I left out on purpose. Shoes. Not what the FAA says, what flight attendants watch go wrong from the jump seat. That one is already on this channel. Watch it next.